One last battle to hold the line against the night.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
Hold the line. No one gets through, no matter what.
Sir, what are your orders?
There's only one order, Lieutenant. We hold.
Incoming transmission.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
On Mojo 50 Radio. The Millennial Conservative Resistance begins right here, right now.
Oh, yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new Millennial Conservative Resistance does indeed begin right here, right now, with you, and we are coming to you right now from the Mojo 50 Forward Operations Facility in the Sonoran Desert of Arizona. Today, we have been beset by technological difficulties, and we're going to try to push our way through them to get you a show. Well, we've got to get the bell for pushing our way through. But we're going to try to persevere today and bring you this episode of the HoloNet, because there's been a whole hell of a lot that's been happening this week, and quite a few things that are slipping under the radar, and among them we need to talk about Brexit. Hello, Boris Johnson, new PM of the United Kingdom, new Prime Minister, and he is deeply concerned with President Trump's escalating trade war with China. Also, the situation in Hong Kong is threatening to spiral out of control as pro-democracy protesters threaten the stability of the Chinese communist state. And that is why, make no mistake, China is very intent on reining in the wayward past British colony, as we've discussed in previous episodes of the HoloNet. And we also discuss how this can bode for the potential for full-scale conflict between the United States and China, because if they're willing to go to arms over Hong Kong, and we do nothing to stop them, how far are they willing to go for Taiwan, who we are treaty-bound to protect? That would absolutely, unquestionably, pull the United States into an armed conflict with the People's Republic of China. Think about it. Japan's thinking about it. They're getting ready for it. Did you know Japan now has 2 aircraft carriers? Oh, yeah. I wrote about this back when I was working for the other station, and I wrote a story about the launch of the JNS Izumo, link in the description, where this was a helicopter destroyer which was built to amazingly look and function exactly like a frigging aircraft carrier, and was also built and designed to utilize the F-35 multi-purpose jet. Did you know they launched another one? And did you also know that Japan passed the constitutional amendment where they're no longer even hiding it? It's not even subterfuge now. They're out and out admitting that these are aircraft carriers. Yeah. The first aircraft carriers Japan has fielded since World War II. You know things are getting ready to go off in Asia when Japan is getting ready for war. Go to a story from Time Magazine. What to know about the Japanese aircraft carrier Kaga. That's right. If you have ever played the video game 1942, or if you're a good student of history, the JS Kaga was a major Japanese warship in World War II. There's a new one. Yeah, that's right. This is all the way back in May 2019. For the last day of President Donald Trump's highly stage-managed visit to Japan, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe took him on a tour of the Japanese warship, the JS Kaga. The Kaga, along with her sister ship, the Izumo, which I reported on back in 2016, is the biggest warship that Japan's Navy, the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Forces, built since the end of the Second World War. And last December, Abe's government announced plans to convert the Kaga and the Izumo, which they were designed to be converted, by the way, to launch the American-made F-35B stealth fighter. The conversion would effectively give the vessels many of the same capabilities as an aircraft carrier, a first for post-war Japan. Aboard the Kaga, Trump praised the decision, along with the announcement that Japan plans to purchase 105 American-made F-35s. This may be overstating Japan's military ambitions. Japan's constitution forbids the use of offensive weapons, which aircraft carriers have long been considered. But this story, okay, is from May 2018. I saw this story the other day, and I'm sorry I didn't have it pulled up for the pre-show, but, kind of stream of consciousness, stream of thought. Japan actually passed a law which now allows them to have offensive weapons in aircraft carriers. Japan is changing their constitution and changing their laws in preparation that they are going to have to defend themselves from China at some point. Or from North Korea at some point. Basically, Japan is no longer convinced that the United States is going to swoop in and save them. This all started under the Obama administration, where part of the story that I mentioned, I wrote that, former American enemies are now rearming. Japan is rearming. Germany has been talking about creating a new unified military. And also, somebody who we're going to talk about in a little bit here, Turkey. Turkey is turning into the new Ottoman Empire, kids. I'm not kidding. So, here's a couple of things that we can do as Americans in a world that is very quickly changing. Okay? We can bolster how we spend our dollars. We can change how our dollars vote for us by getting together with Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile, we got their website pulled up right here for you. Hang on. Patriot Mobile is America's only conservative cell phone provider. You can keep your phone number. You can bring your own phone. You can buy a new one. They're reliable, nationwide, and they have no hidden fees. They donate a portion of their profits to organizations fighting for the First and Second Amendment rights, family values, small government, and pro-life. And right now, for a limited time, you can get the Moto Z3 Play for $5 a month for a limited time only using promo code 5, F-I-V-E, when you call 1-877-367-7524 or visit patriotmobile.com. Again, that's 877-367-7524. Use promo code FIVE5. You use your cell phone every day. Patriot Mobile provides the opportunity for you to use your cell phone to make a change. Big Mobile supports values you don't believe in, like Planned Parenthood, abortion, open borders, liberal candidates. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today. Support your values. Do it with Mojo 50. Call 1-877-367-7524. Use promo code 5, F-I-V-E, for your Moto Z3 Play at $5 a month. So back to, items that people aren't reporting on. Like I said, Prime Minister Johnson from the UK. Oh, I forgot my my requisite UK sounder. Where have I got that? Hang on. Here we go. We go. Got to fly over the pond. So UK PM Johnson tells Trump to de-escalate trade tensions. You got to remember, Brexit, it's going down. He's given the due date of the end of October. And I believe he's going to do it. I believe Boris Johnson is really going to do it. He is going to let happen a no-deal Brexit. He's going to allow it. And he should. Screw Brussels. I mean, they wanted this. They're the ones that are refusing to deal. And I think the UK has no other step left. But in Biarritz, France, according to Reuters, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said Saturday he would tell President Donald Trump at this weekend's G7 summit to pull back from a trade war that is already destabilizing economic growth in the world. Johnson and Trump are due to meet on Sunday for what are expected to be positive talks on their country's future bilateral trade relations and Brexit, as well as covering international topics where the two sides do not see eye to eye, like Russia, the Iran nuclear deal, and trade policy in China. Asked if he would be telling Trump he should not escalate the trade war with China, Johnson said, quote, "You bet." Speaking to reporters on arrival in the southwestern French city of Biarritz, Johnson said one of the priorities for the summit is clearly the state of global trade. I'm very worried about the way it's going, the growth of protectionism, of tariffs that we're seeing. A year-long trade war between the United States and China, the world's two largest economies, has roiled financial markets and shaken the global economy. The dispute worsened just ahead of a Washington summit, with Washington and Beijing announcing further tariffs. Don't forget that the UK is at risk of being implicated in this, Johnson said. This is absolutely accurate. The United States, trade with the United States is the life raft for the UK in Brexit right now, so they don't want us mixing it up with China right about now, because trade with China would come via the United States. You have to remember your geopolitics here. You know, you can look at the map behind me, and you have in this region, you know, here, I'm going to get out of the way. There we go. So in this region here, you have the UK. Here's China, right? So any time that China, anytime that China over here wants to get its products all the way over here to the UK, what are the routes that you have to take? You can either come down the sea route through South China Sea, which is unstable, up through the Persian Gulf, which is also unstable, through the Mediterranean, out to Strait of Gibraltar, around the corner here. So that's the shipping route. That's the sea route. And this has been what wars have been fought over since time immemorial, you know. Then you have the land route, which is just straight across the continent via Russia, the Ukraine, into Europe, Germany, and then bing, England. So with an exit from the European Union, in order to gain products and markets in China, that trade is going to have to come via the United States and then cross the Atlantic. If we return back to the map, see? Through the United States, boop, straight up to England. All right, so think about it in that. That's why I have the big map behind me, because it makes it a little bit easier. But think about it this way. If we are in a full-blown trade war with China, with prohibitive tariffs on either side, the UK launches a crash Brexit, a Brexit that has no official rules for how they trade between, you know, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, well, Northern Ireland and Ireland, because it's not really Southern Ireland, and the rest of Europe. Trade halts because there's no rules to govern it, and they very hastily have to come up with some. And they've already proven that they're not willing to cooperate for the common good, so I don't expect that to be a fast process. Now, in the interim, how does the UK continue to get products and goods and services? Through us. So if we're slapping a 30% tariff on everything, and China is slapping a 30% tariff on everything, who's going to wind up paying the tariff in addition to us? The Brits. That's right. So Boris Johnson has a very vested interest in asking President Trump to throttle back. This is why now is the time for China to commence with the fuckery. This is the time for China to put their boot on Hong Kong. Because the two countries that would historically do something about it right now have the most to lose. The United States is the linchpin for British trade post-Brexit. Of course, Britain, with their history in Hong Kong, takes a rather dim view of how things are going there right now. The United States takes a rather dim view. I mean, when we talked last week about how they're waving the American flag and singing the American anthem in their protests, and we're not able to do anything about it. Why? Because we're already embroiled in a trade war, and because China has also already shown a willingness to stretch their military into the South China Sea, and we're trying not to start World War III. China is going to take back Hong Kong. It's going to happen. Be ready for it. And initially, I think, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. We really won't. Hong Kong is the next Crimea. Hong Kong will be President Trump's Crimea. If he is not careful, this will be his diplomatic, military, geopolitical failure. If he is not careful, this will be what Crimea and Sevastopol was for President Obama. An example that the United States and the threat of the United States can no longer prevent the territorial ambitions of nations like Russia and China, which makes this world a more dangerous one. Because to put it quite bluntly, they've got us by the balls. I don't know, I gotta check. Yeah, the basketballs, the soccer balls, footballs. We're in an economic position right now. We're in a political position where this country cannot withstand a conflict. Trump knows it. Xi Jinping knows it. Vladimir Putin knows it. Boris Johnson knows it. The United States and the UK both are on a knife edge. We're threatening to tear ourselves apart. And China is going to capitalize. Pray for Hong Kong. Story from CNN, just from today, if it ever loads. Hong Kong's calm was broken with tear gas on the 12th weekend of consecutive protests. Hong Kong's brief respite from violence has come to an end with police firing tear gas at demonstrators as the city's protests enter their 12th weekend. Thousands of protesters took to Kwun Tong district in the city's east on Saturday, reiterating the 5 demands that have emerged in this pro-democracy movement, adding an additional issue, the installation of smart environmental monitoring lampposts, which have sparked privacy concerns. I want to see those 5 demands. The tear gas is fired at protesters. Here we go. Protesters attempted to tear down and dismantle the lampposts, while others gathered on the streets and formed barriers. Protesters have been seen with slingshot, iron bars, and bricks, while riot police fired back pepper spray and tear gas, making it the first time in 10 days since tear gas was fired. Okay, that's a BB gun. Jeez, that's a good way to get shot. In a statement Saturday evening, the Hong Kong government condemned the vandalistic and violent acts of the protesters and said that a number of the smart lampposts were deliberately damaged. Yeah, no kidding. The government added the smart lampposts do not carry facial recognition function and would not infringe on personal privacy. We believe you! Everyone is tired, wrote the chief executive Carrie Lam on her Facebook page today. Can we sit down and talk about it? She also pointed to social and economic frustrations, echoing some protesters' complaints. The public's dissatisfaction may also be due to deep social contradictions in different areas, such as politics, economy, and people's livelihood. While we're calling for a cessation of violence, we must also provide a way out for solving the deeper dead knot of society, she wrote. The standoff brings an end to a week of relative calm, which has seen numerous clashes between protesters and police since early last summer. Last weekend, police fired no tear gas and an estimated 1.7 million people braved the heavy rain and heat to march peacefully along Hong Kong's streets. So, yeah, that looks peaceful, doesn't it? So the protests in Hong Kong are heating up again. How long until we see a response from Beijing? How long is Xi Jinping going to sit back and watch this? A more important question still, how long until the executive of the city, until Carrie Lam, actually asks China for military intervention? At what point will the Hong Kong police force be so overwhelmed that they actually ask? It's not going to take much. So mark my words, what I said earlier this hour. China's going to take back Hong Kong. just the same way Russia took back the Crimea. The world is going to look for us to militarily intervene. And it isn't going to happen. The United States isn't going to militarily intervene. And Britain is not going to militarily intervene. If I was Taiwan right now, I would be circling wagons. Because right now, we're too divided. Think about the headlines tomorrow. If President Trump announced, if he got up in front of the podium and he said, "My fellow Americans, we're going to war with China." How do you think that would go? What do you think that would look like? Would the country unite behind President Trump like the country united behind FDR? Would he be able to make an impassioned plea for the freedom of the people of Hong Kong? That would be enough to unite the American people, to put aside our differences and defend the people of Hong Kong and defend the concept of democracy. I honestly don't think the American people would sit for it this time. Too many people would say, we don't have a dog in the fight. You know, Hong Kong was never a part of the United States. It's unfortunate what's happening to them, but at the end of the day, I don't think the left would sit for it. I think it would doom President Trump's re-election ambitions. I think this is a no-win scenario, and I think China knows it. And that's why I think Xi Jinping has been emboldened. Before we go take this quick break, I want to tell you about another one of our sponsors who's working very, very hard to win the peace. I'm talking about Combat Flip Flops. That's combatflipflops.com. Combatflipflops.com. You can use your promo code HOLLOW25. That's HOLLOW25. They've got the new MK19 black on blacks ready to ship. I want to get a pair of these. I really do. Because I like that style of shoe. I really do. I wear the hell out of Converse and Vans. So I'm thinking about grabbing a pair for myself. That's combatflipflops.com, HOLLOW25. Get your 25% off there on combatflipflops.com. This is an amazing group of men and women who are waging the peace business, not bullets, converting former Soviet military factories in Afghanistan to make flip-flops and footwear, providing great jobs for the local people there, and creating peace through entrepreneurial business, and educating women in Afghanistan, providing education for a young woman. Every pair of shoes you buy, you're putting money toward educating a young woman in Afghanistan and turning that culture around and bringing peace through prosperity. So look good, do good, feel good. Go to combatflipflops.com. Use your promo code HOLLOW25, HOLLOW25 at combatflipflops.com. Now we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about developments that have occurred in Turkey, in the former Ottoman Empire. We talked about it last year when I was on Lanterns.buzz. And we're going to throw back to some of those notions. And President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, in his Islamist revival of the Ottoman Empire. You're listening to the HoloNet on the mighty Mojo 50. Follow us on Facebook.com/HoloNet, at the HoloNet on the Twitters, the MeWe's, the BitChutes, the YouTubes, everywhere great podcasts are found. We'll be back.
Allied reinforcements had arrived from the west.
On Mojo 50 Radio, the Millennial Conservative Resistance begins right here, right now.
Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Millennial Conservative Resistance does indeed begin right here, right now with you. You're listening to, hopefully watching, the HoloNet on the mighty Mojo 50. We are back. So, I will show you another good trick that I know. Remember Syria? We haven't talked about Syria in a while. We go to The Guardian. 3 million people caught in crossfire as Assad vows to capture every inch of Syria. Isn't it amazing how the news cycle shifts and we completely forget about a war that's going on? Yeah, that's a common thread, kind of, I noticed in my shows, as I kind of try to tap you on the shoulder a little bit, you know, ding, ding, ding. Hey, you remember this one? That's still happening. Yeah, Syrian government forces have made fresh military advances toward President Bashar al-Assad's goal of reclaiming, quote, every inch of the country in an offensive that has intensified fears of a humanitarian disaster in the northern Idlib province. Opposition fighters withdrew last week from the key town of Khan Sheikhoun, another strategic concession to Assad and his Russian and Iranian backers. Gee, that sounds like a fun group. Who have torn up a ceasefire deal protecting the rebels' last major pocket of territory. As the country's bloody civil war grinds into its 9th year, Assad is widely acknowledged to have emerged triumphant, but the fight is far from over, with the terms of victory and the shape of Syria's future still very much in play on the battlefield. Armed groups are dug in across much of the north, including extremist opposition fighters in Idlib. Beyond them, foreign-backed fighters, including Turkish proxy militias, and U.S.-backed Kurds along sections of the border with Turkey and Iraq. Caught in the middle of the fighting, as brutal as it has ever been during this conflict, are desperate civilians. Around 3 million are trapped in the opposition-held province of Idlib. The area is largely controlled by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a former al-Qaeda affiliate that came to dominate the opposition after infighting fragmentation destroyed the more moderate groups. But the civilians gathered there come from a much broader range of backgrounds, many of them opposition supporters displaced multiple times from areas that have since fallen to Assad, including Aleppo and the Damascus suburb of Ghouta. Many have fallen under HTS control without actively supporting them. The latest crisis was set in motion in April when the Syrian government offensive shedded a truce that was agreed to last year between Turkey, Iran, and Russia. It had created a buffer zone between the last remaining pockets of rebel-held territory and Assad's forces. A little map image there on the screen for you. The scale and the intensity of the bombardment that followed, including attacks on health facilities and schools, led the UN to launch an inquiry. You know, because UN inquiries are meaningful and actually accomplish stuff. Because people care what the United Nations thinks. Syrian authorities have opened up a, quote, humanitarian corridor for non-combatants to leave, but it leads to government-controlled areas, and few of those trapped see it as a safe escape route. Yes, run toward the people who are attempting to kill you. Returnees with opposition links have faced detention, conscription, or worse when arriving in parts of the country controlled by Assad. Khan Sheikhoun was targeted by Assad because it gives his forces control over a key highway linking the central city of Homs to Syria's battered commercial capital, Aleppo, and severs an opposition supply route. But the advance of the town deepened the standoff between Turkish and Syrian forces by cutting off Turkish troops based at one of the 12 observation points under the ceasefire deal. Ankara has said it would not move the site. Quote, the 9th observation post remains in place. All of the other observation posts foreseen or put in place under the Idlib agreement will continue to operate where they are, said a Turkish government spokesperson, Ibrahim Kalin. The effective siege of the Turkish outpost comes days after the Syrian government airstrikes targeted a Turkish military convoy that Damascus claimed was trying to reinforce rebel lines, killing 3 civilians and injuring several others. Syria's government made no bones about its intentions to reunify the country by force if necessary. The foreign minister Walid al-Mualim underlined this commitment in a meeting with the Chinese envoy to Syria, Xi Zhaojian, in Damascus last week. The government would fight for every inch of Syrian territory in spite of blatant Turkish intervention, he told Xi, according to the state news agency Sana. But Turkey, too, is under extreme political pressure to keep Idlib free of Assad's control, both for strategic reasons and because of fear about the 3 million people clustering ever closer to its border. Turkey already hosts more than 3.6 million refugees who have become a political liability. Authorities are trying to close refugee camps and send some of them home. Turkey would struggle to deal with the fresh influx, but it fears increasing pressure to open the borders if Syrian government forces close in further on civilians on the other side. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan will host his Russian and Iranian counterparts for a summit on Syria next month, which he announced Thursday. They will discuss Idlib, but also political efforts to end the war. That, according to The Guardian. Now, we talked about Recep Tayyip Erdogan last year and also the year before. And the reason that Erdogan is important is because Turkey is a NATO ally, believe it or not. They're a non-NATO ally. Well, actually, they are a full NATO ally, I should stand corrected. But they're not a traditional NATO ally like the United States, France, or Britain. They host a series of American military bases in Turkey and Incirlik Air Base. Sorry, I couldn't think of the name. Is one of the more important NATO facilities that are located there. Turkey was a bulwark against the Soviet Union in the 1980s and the 1970s and 60s during the Cold War, where we found an ally in the regime and subsequent governments that were created by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, I should say, who Turkey is more or less named for, and they celebrate him as the father of modern Turkey. Ever since coming to power, Recep Tayyip Erdogan has eschewed away from the pro-military secular government style that Ataturk put in place and is drifting more and more toward a pro-Ottoman or neo-Ottoman legacy with some distinctive Islamist leanings. Story here from foreignpolicy.com. This is from June 22nd last year. Erdogan is making the Ottoman Empire great again. Turkey is leveraging its tradition to expand its power in Europe, but history cuts both ways. I've reviewed this story before on this show, but this is a good one to check out. Link in the description about how the Turks have been embracing their Ottoman heritage. Not moving away from it, but embracing it. Now, Syria was then and is now considered one of the heartlands of the Ottoman Empire, leading down to Jerusalem, one of the holiest places. And then you get down into Saudi Arabia. You can see very quickly that in defeating one caliphate, we may have ignored the rise of the old caliphate, the return of the Ottoman Caliphate. You already have people calling him Erdogan the Magnificent, Erdogan the Great, things of that nature. Washington Times, now a year later, July 2nd, 2019. Turkey's Erdogan, the Neo-Ottoman. Why his renaming of 2 drill ships matters. On May 3rd, Turkey sent its navy in a maritime area between the islands of Cyprus and Crete to escort its drill ship Fatih and muddy the oil and gas-rich waters between Greek, Egyptian, and the Cypriot exclusive economic zones. The U.S. State Department, the European Union, Israel, and Egypt condemned the incident. Since then, Turkey initiated research and drilling operations 30 nautical miles off the west coast of Cyprus, which was formerly an Ottoman possession, by the way, guys. Consequently, Cyprus issued an international arrest warrant for the crew members of the drill ship. As an act of solidarity with Cyprus, the European Union announced the suspension of accession talks with Turkey, an official candidate to join the EU since 1999, and threatened taking targeted measures against Turkey. So that's it, folks. Turkey is no longer seeking to join the EU. Ooh. Don't you think that might have been important to hear about on the mainstream news instead of the latest hit piece on President Trump? Jeez. In response, Turkey sent a new naval armada with a second drill ship to further expand its drilling operations in the eastern Mediterranean. But why on earth did President Recep Erdogan, who purchased the two formerly Greek-owned drill ships in less than a year, decide to rename them from Deep Sea Metro 1 and 2 to Fatih, after Muhammad II, the conqueror of Constantinople, and Yavuz, after Yavuz Sultan Selim, the first Ottoman Sultan, self-titled as Caliph, to be regarded as a successor to Muhammad and the protector of all Sunni Muslim states? It's easy to overlook the significance of names, but what does it matter if Mr. Erdogan christens a ship Fatih? He could have just as easily named it something else, but ignoring the messages underlying names would be a mistake on our part. Mr. Erdogan's choice of names is a dog whistle, don't you just hate that term, to his domestic audience, one which the uninformed Western observer would easily miss. In this, he is following a long-standing Ottoman tradition of inventing a past to bolster his legitimacy in the present. Historically, the Ottomans fed their appetite for power and prestige through military success. However, unlike other Muslim dynasties, they couldn't invoke an enduring right to rule through a bloodline with the Prophet. The sultans, unable to emulate the Christian Roman emperor's tradition, who claimed to act as representative of God on earth, had developed other ways to bolster their legitimacy. Given its Christian population and storied Roman past, Constantinople remained a controversial choice as the new Ottoman capital after its fall in 1453. To mollify Muslim dissent in 1459, Muhammad II constructed the Fatih Mosque on the site of the Holy Apostles' Church, the burial place of Emperor Constantine, founder of the Imperial Constantinople. He built it exactly where his spiritual leader, Dervish Sheikh al-Shams al-Din, claimed to have discovered the tomb of Prophet Muhammad's comrade, Abu Yayab al-Ansari, hashtag like a native, who died 669 AD during one of the many Arabic sieges of the Byzantine capital. This expedient discovery helped bridge the religio-political legitimacy deficit between the new Ottoman capital and the Prophet. So this story goes on quite a bit. Quite a bit. Long story short, too late. Erdogan is seeking to legitimize, in a pro-Islamist fashion, his rule, as last year he changed the constitution of Turkey to grant him broad and sweeping new powers, and has long since begun to exercise them. Erdogan is setting himself up as the next great autocratic leader of Turkey. And he is creating this in very similar fashion to what other leaders have done in the past, by glorifying the past. But unfortunately, the Ottoman past has some blemishes, just like every other country's. That's too dismissive. Just like any other countries. This is the country, this is the empire that enacted the Armenian freaking genocide. That wiped out hundreds of thousands of Christian Armenians and Greeks. That Turkey still refuses to acknowledge to this day. That is who Erdogan is seeking to emulate and restore. So we need to be very, very careful in dealing with Turkey. And what concerns me is we don't appear to be dealing with Turkey. You remember I was talking about, legitimizing himself? How about this story from the Daily Sabah that nobody seemed to notice? This is back in 2017. The last heir to the Ottoman throne was evacuated from Syria on Erdogan's order. Dündar Abdülkerim Osmanoglu, like a native, was last heir to the throne of the now defunct Ottoman Empire, was evacuated from war-torn Syria into Turkey upon the order of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Osmanoglu, 87, was living alone in Damascus, where he was born after his parents were expelled from Turkey upon abolition of the Caliphate in 1924. His wife Yusra died last month. The descendants of the Ottoman dynasty living in Turkey long sought to bring the fragile dynasty member from Syria, which cut off ties with Turkey amid the ongoing war. So got some related articles here, but long story short, Erdogan has embraced Ottoman traditions. He rescued the imperial family of the Ottoman Empire from Syria, whether by their will or not, and is now naming the vessels he is challenging Cyprus's sovereignty with after the first rulers of the Ottoman Empire. Furthermore, he's stating in Syria that his military will not abandon their observation posts that are currently under siege by Assad's forces, the Russians, and the Iranians. And he has been cozying up to Russia by purchasing S-400 missile defense systems, distancing himself from the United States and the rest of NATO, such to the point that their brand new aircraft carrier, which was built for them by Spain, which was supposed to use the F-35, is probably now not going to, because the S-400 and F-35 are not compatible to each other, because we can't allow the Russians to have the radar signature of the F-35, for obvious reasons. Turkey, folks, is going to be the key in the Middle East. Syria is going to be the match point. But Turkey, not Iran. Iran is the one we're all ready for, the one we're all watching. Turkey's the one we're not watching. Mark my words. Turkey is going to cause us more problems than Iran does. And they don't like each other either. At all. But Turkey aligning itself with Russia rather than with the United States, combined with a hostile Iran and a hapless Syria, the Saudis are completely in it for themselves and are letting the chips fall where they may, and Israel's surrounded. On top of that, we're facing a similar situation as I described with China. We are in no shape right now, politically or economically, to intervene in a large-scale conflict. So if Turkey, with Russia, and Iran and Assad decided to hop fence and make some border changes, overrunning the Kurds, would we stop it? Would we step in? I think the answer to that question is also no. Right now, President Trump is in an incredibly delicate balancing act. He must prevent these conflicts from occurring, because his presidency is that delicate. It just feels like we live in a very dangerous, very pivotal time. I think you all feel it too. We know that in our lifetimes, some is going to go down. I hope we're ready for it. I hope the world is ready for it. But I worry that we're not. You know what I am ready for, though? I'm ready to not have the bubble guts. How about you? I dislike having the bubble guts. That's why I go to lovemytummy.com. lovemytummy.com/mojo, and I get the Atrantil. Use promo code MOJO at checkout. It's only $99. Get the Atrantil. Bloated abdominal discomfort, body inflammation. Get your polyphenols with Atrantil. Limited time offer. Make sure you get taken care of here. Atrantil contains polyphenols. Polyphenols are very, very useful to your body. Allows you to regulate your gut. It is a gut regulator. So that way, if you have the bubble guts, if you have, as Dr. McCoy would say on Star Trek, postprandial upper abdominal distension, you can take yourself some Atrantil. It'll help with those bubble guts, help with those cramps, help with inflammation in your body that makes it hard to get through your day-to-day life. Check it out. It's on lovemytummy.com/mojo. Use promo code MOJO at checkout. 3 bottles of Atrantil for only $99. That saves you $21. Help you regulate your body. All of your health comes from your gut, so do it some good. Go to lovemytummy.com/mojo. And while we're at it, hey, I wanted to talk to you real quick about KBMD CBD oil. That's on mojo50.com/shop. Here, let's get you there real quick. mojo50.com/shop. And you can check out mojo50/shop. We have our KBMD, Ken Brown MD. He has his own brand of CBD oil on there. Now, Ken Brown, you've heard him talk about Atrantil. You've heard him talk about now CBD oil. The crazy thing, the really crazy thing, is that when you use these together, you get something that's called the entourage effect, where it works really beautifully well. It's a full spectrum CBD. It works best when used with other natural terpenes and compounds, called the entourage effect. So using it alongside your Atrantil, definitely recommend it. It is a CO2 extract CBD oil. It's the best price per milligram of any third-party tested CBD on the market. Make sure when you're using a CBD, it's got its COA, its Certificate of Authenticity, so that way you know the tests that have been taken, and you know it's good, you know it's pure. You can use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and that gives you $15 off of your purchase of CBD oils. It can help you with nagging, joint discomfort, difficulty sleeping, frequent inflammation, just like Atrantil, mood swings, gut problems, like Atrantil. CBD can help you deliver real relief. And again, that's on mojo50.com/shop for CBD extract supplements. And you can get that in cinnamon and also natural. So you can get that flavored or not. And $15 off your purchase with promo code MATT, M-A-T-T. Check that out, mojo50.com/shop. And hey, that's a twofer. That's Atrantil and CBD. Love it! All right. So we don't have too much time left on today's show. We got a couple of minutes yet. Yeah, I know today's episode's been kind of doom and gloomy. A little bit. We got 5 minutes left. And with that 5 minutes, I want to talk to you a little bit about death. Because, yeah, all this doom and gloom, we need to talk about death. And why do we need to talk about death? We need to talk about death because Twitter is a life-sucking beast from which there's little escape, aside from removing it from your phone. Same thing with social media. And why do I say that social media is a life-sucking beast, despite the fact that you're probably watching this on social media or listening to it on social media? It's because yesterday, Friday, I'm looking on Twitter, and what is trending at number friggin' 2 on Twitter? David Koch passed away yesterday, aged, I think, 87. Last time I checked, it petered out trending in 5th, but it was all the way up to trending number 2, like 19-20 hours ago on the Twitters. And the tweets are horrible. The tweets are disgusting. The left has reacted in what I can only describe in the harshest possible terms as disgusting, as evil, as depraved. When I look at this Twitter stream, like people like Bill Maher, praising the man's death. Dan Bongino said, "I didn't know David Koch, never met him, but insane, deranged, lunatic liberals celebrating his death and hoping it was painful is indicative of the disease, the curse, the plague that liberalism has become. How do these maniacs look at themselves in a mirror? They're disgusting. And I have to concur Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino, who, I like his work, hit the nail on the head here. This is absolutely insane. Excuse me. Governor Mike Huckabee said the hateful comments of the left about the death of David Koch leaves me in shock. My only thought is to say to those vicious people, get thee behind me, Satan. I truly don't understand that level of sheer evil toward others. What do you do? What do you do? But, I can't just point to the left with this, because yesterday, reports came out that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was recovering nicely from another treatment to fight her cancer, because her cancer had come back. She had pancreatic cancer, and the treatment was successful, and that she's expected to return to a full state of health. And yes, there are tweets out there from people supposedly on the right. I don't know if they are or they're not, but people on the right who are saying they wish Ruth Bader Ginsburg would just die already. We can't have it both ways, guys. It is completely possible and totally right to simultaneously mourn the death of David Koch and all the work that he did for libertarian, constitutional, and conservative causes, and also pray and wish expedient healing, a loss of pain, and good health to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, despite how much you disagree with her. Damn it, people. We need to be better. And this is not directed at the Mojo 50 audience. This is directed at society as a whole, because I am disappointed in society. Not in America, not in, not in the state of Arizona, not in Republicans, not in Democrats. I am disappointed today in humanity. Okay? Because you got to look at it. Twitter's global. And well, this was trending in the United States, but I am disappointed in human beings, in society, in people online. We need to be better. You don't dance, and full honesty, there have been people where I've thought about them, and I've kind of sung the old song, "I'll be glad when you dead, you rascal you." And you shouldn't be. David Koch's death is tragic to his family, to his friends, to people who knew him and people who cared about him, and to the causes that he supported. If you disagree with them, that's fine, but you don't trend on Twitter celebrating a man's death. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You may disagree with everything she has ever done and said as a Supreme Court justice, but at the end of the day, she's another child of God. And no one deserves cancer. On that note, guys, good night. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And I hope we'll be better tomorrow than we were yesterday, as a society and as human beings. From Phoenix, end transmission.